to Brennan Clarke. So Brennan, can I even name where you work at?
CBA.
CBA, all right. Brennan is a systems engineer at the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. He's been a long-term transhumanist, one of the very first co-founders at Transhumanism Australia. He's brought a beautiful family over here, his wife and his youngest daughter. I think your youngest daughter gave a talk at school on the singularity, was it?
Yes, that's right.
Wow. There you go. That's right.
No friends, right?
We'll all be one anyway, so you don't need friends later on. So by the way, so Brennan's going to be talking about the Australia project. So again, round of applause.
G'day. Basically, my speech is going to be on the Australia project, which is from a book called Manna by Marshall Brain. Marshall Brain's one of the guys that did How Things Work website, and he writes a few books on various future topics and things like that. So, in this book, it basically covers what are the two futures that happens with the rise of automation. Okay. So what is Manna? Okay, so Manna is basically an automation system which is designed to run a fast food restaurant. And the first thing it does is to basically replace the managers. So what's happening here is that we've got two visions of the future in the book. The dystopian aspect, which is what happens when you use automation and concentration of ownership. The world becomes a very dark place. And then the potential utopia, and I use the word potential, utopia, which is what we call the Australia project, which is basically where you use the abundance that automation gives to basically make a potential utopia or a nice place to live where we actually use the abundance of resources for everyone to live.
Sorry, is a dystopia example like Amazon?
No, dystopian the fact that it's not a very pleasant place to live in terms of this one.
There's no people around.
No, there's not an apocalypse type thing, but basically you've got a two-class society, right?
Like Amazon.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm going to go through some of the technologies used in Manna. Can we actually build it? And then some of the type of things, like you ever heard of universal basic income? There's another one which is called resource credits, which is much the same, and the use of brain-computer interfaces. Okay, so basically what is Manna? Thank you. So Manna is basically a solution to the problem of what do you want to do, and they use the example of a fast food restaurant, right? So you want basically a consistent, consumer-friendly environment, and you basically want to run with basically low-paid workers. So how do you make that system? So you've got managers that manage all aspects of hiring staff, firing staff, basically putting on rosters, ordering, making sure the store's clean, etc. So basically, in the story, they actually replace it with a complex expert system. So that's probably the easiest way to think of it. Quite tailored to a fast food restaurant, that's all it does, right? Although it does a lot more complex, so you can think about it as being a more futuristic version, but basic isn't. Expert system. And so basically, when the system gets in, goes online, the first thing it does is actually replaces all the managers, all right? And that's it. All the staff are okay, but now it's a robot pretty much talking to them. Everyone wears like a little headset, and the headset is actually commands which basically tell each person of staff exactly what to do. So it pretty much micromanages every step of their lives, which is why we get to this dystopian aspect of it. All right. So it uses a complex voice synthesis and voice recognition. It eventually expands into hiring and firing decisions, and ends up running most companies and organisations in the US. So that's where they show the dystopian aspect, right? And the important thing is it constantly micromanages minimum wage employees to create the perfect performance. And that's pretty much its job. However, because it actually does this job, if you ever get fired by the Manna system, every other Manna system which is connected by the internet also knows you got fired. If you're sick or you're unwell, it also knows that you're sick or unwell. So once you lose your job, you're unemployable. Okay? Yeah.
See a lot of people he's screwed.
Yeah, pretty much, that's it. So everyone becomes a low-skilled worker and easily replaceable because the Manna system tells every step of your job. If you don't need training, it tells you exactly what to do. People are treated pretty much like an extension of the robot, right? Once, as I said before, you lose your job, flags you as a risk for other Manna systems, means you're now permanently unemployable. System knows every employee. It knows everything about you, offline and online, and therefore it impacts the freedom of the individual. So basically what you do in a party, you may have a drink or a smoke or whatever it is, the system goes, well, I don't like that sort of person, and of course you're fired, right? Or it won't hire you at all. And eventually it creates a two-class society. So you've got people who are rich, they own the methods of production, and you've got everyone else. So if you're lucky, you have a job, and if you're not, you're an unemployable, useless class of people which are basically got no value to society. So you're practically discarded. So here's a solution to this, because of, remember they've got automation and stuff, they basically put the poor, the sick, etc. in camps, and that's where you rot.
Is this where China's starting to go down with their social score and social credit and everything?
It's sort of an aspect of that,
You don't
right?
have to go, this is the prison system in the USA.
Yeah. That's right, Detroit.
Don't worry, they'll be used as a battery in the future.
Yeah.
Like they make-
Yeah, well, this is taking, well, I suppose, some of these steps, when I read it the first time, I was like a little bit far-fetched, but you can see where it's going. Especially if you speak to some of the managers, and then especially when you're talking about some of the people who are currently unemployed at the moment. The price of education is quite expensive now. You want to go to TAFE, it's now expensive, you're going for a loan. People don't get a loan out because basically they're permanently poor. There's no actual job to go into to actually be able to pay that off. And if you want to own a home, well, now you already got a debt, right? So if you want to rent, well, at the moment, well, it depends on what happens to the housing market, but rent's already too high. So even if you're poor now, you can't even afford to rent, all right? So that's sort of what we're going down to that step. So the other way, right? We've got the Australia project. So in the Marshall Brain explores, well, if there's a dystopia, there should be a utopia. And in this case, we actually create a society where we use the abundance of technology, the abundance of resources and stuff like that to create a nice little utopia for everyone, where basically people are free to live their lives, right? And they're valued. So to do this, obviously, we need some sort of universal basic income, in which case they use a system in this one called resource credits. Okay, so everything's free. You get paid a number of resources, you get to use those resources. If, when you die, your resources are reallocated to someone else, what you don't use is recycled. So there's a permanent recycling, no one owns anything. You only own what you have while you own it, and when you don't want it, you get rid of it and it gets recycled. So
How is a resource represented?
just a resource credit. So everyone gets a number of resource credits. So just to track basically so that people don't basically gob up all the resources.
What is it? Money? Coins?
It'd be some sort of it would be similar to money, but it'll be actually a
So I'm going to get a big stick, beat you and take your resource credits.
you get your resource credits when you die, they disappear. No one's going to take anything, but the point is you can't over accumulate.
Wow.
Why? Because you've only got a certain number of resources. So
You don't get ownership.
huh?
There's no ownership.
There's no ownership, yeah, pretty much right. So
That's in contradiction to a credit using currency.
okay, so I should clarify, it gets a little complicated, but the whole thing designed, and this is where the possible dystopia comes from, or possible, that's why I said potential utopia, is there needs to be a method of controlling this, okay? So there needs to be some sort of social contract, and that's where people are a little bit fuzzy on this, because they actually use this brain-computer interface, which is called vert brain, which controls you. All right. So I'll get to that in a second. Right. Yeah. So basically, well, I'll get to that anyway. So basically, the robots control everything, right? You get the resource credits. If you want to basically, build a fusion reactor, you can, right? How do you do that? Well, you get other people to pool their excess resource credits in to build larger projects.
Voluntary or not voluntary?
Well, no, it's all voluntary. That's the whole point, right?
Yeah. We're humans. We will figure out anyway to get leverage.
Yeah, that's where I go.
That's what Twitter track on.
Yeah. So people are connected to a sophisticated brain-computer interface, which actually replaces some of the vertebrates in your spine.
The Borg.
Yes, pretty much. Okay. So what this does is this pretty much gives you equivalently full dive virtual reality experience, right? Which means that you can feel, you can touch, you can taste, you can smell everything in virtual reality. But even in the physical world, you can you don't need a phone because everything's communicated all through your brain-computer interface. Everything's overlaid with your vision and things like this. And people are technically free to pursue any lifestyle they choose. But of course, there's rules, otherwise it would collapse.
Who makes the rules?
Aha! Right, so in the story they make these pretty much 9 principles, and I've sort of given a little bit of an example of where it's iffy, right? But everyone is equal, which is kind of cool, everyone likes that. Everyone's reused, which is sustainability, because you need to get that project to continue on. Nothing is anonymous, this is where it's a little bit iffy. To control the people in this environment, right?
It's a bit iffy.
Yeah, you have to know what everyone's doing. So that because the robots or the artificial intelligence controls everything, needs to know what you're doing, so you make sure you're not sure you're doing anything wrong. Okay. Yeah. Again, nothing is owned. You're not supposed to lie. That's still proof. Do no harm. That's the whole idea of you're not supposed to go kill people and things like that, or hurt people. So remember, it's all about being free, obeying these rules. Live your life, you live with those to choose, and again, this better and better, which is the most important part. So there's social contracts built in there if you live in this project, which is the fact that you need a declaration of innovation. So you're supposed to create a culture that everyone's trying to constantly look for improvements to the society and implementing new ideas. So this is sort of encouraged as part of the social contract as well.
How? If you don't get paid for it, no one will shoot.
Huh?
If you don't get paid for it, no one will shoot.
Well, that's what I thought too, but eventually, okay, there's a current right now, we've got people who don't do anything already, right? They sit on welfare, they don't do anything, okay? So people say that's bad, right? If you introduce such a system, there will be still people who will do that. But I know myself, I might sit on my bum for a while and then it's pretty much fun. And after a while I get bored, okay? I want to do something, right? I want to help people. Why? Because I feel like it. And I want to make things.
You're going to bring the scale taxes to them because they get screwed.
Yeah.
How does the system know whose idea is there? If you wanna,
okay, so
I want to do something, someone else, right?
yeah. So the whole idea is because you're connected to this this system, all the ideas are freely available. There's no such thing as patents and all sorts of stuff. So all ideas are supposed to be freely available. And whoever likes a particular idea, you can have that idea. You can follow through with it, or the ideas that are not good just get ignored, basically. So the whole idea of this project is to basically keep everyone freedom. Now, the reason why I say it's potential utopias is because the only way this society can actually work is there needs to be an element of control. And who makes the rules? Well, it's the artificial intelligence, right? And then if you try to murder someone, right, they actually use this brain system to actually switch off your motor system so that you can't murder them. Okay?
It doesn't sound though right though, because control is different, because you're talking about an equilibrium though. It means everybody has to start out with the same capability. Because if you've got super smart and not so smart, then they can't contribute as much, and then they're going to end up.
No, that's because you're
saying you have to make everyone exactly the same
No,
capability equal.
No, everyone is, because you don't own anything.
Because you believe in evolution.
I've got a question over here about who makes the AI? Who makes the AI?
Yes.
Who's writing the rules?
Huh?
Who writes the rules? And it's a funny question, am I allowed to masturbate?
Can I think about you?
It's not hard anyway.
Well, it depends, because the rules do no harm and tell the truth and obey the rules all comes down to who writes the rules and who writes the
They're
advice.
also
Because, for
incompatible.
example,
So
and I'm not, if the Catholic Church wrote the rules, there's a lot of stuff, but if the, that's the math way one.
Yeah.
There are other things, but there's a lot of things people want to do which some people don't see the problem, some people do.
Well,
Can I just give you look? I'm
Yeah,
from-
Wait, sorry.
Oh yeah, so the solution to that issue is the fact that I don't know, right? But the whole idea,
is an element of,
yeah.
of like democracy. The idea.
Well, there is an element of democracy. The whole idea is though is that what you choose to do shouldn't impact other people, right? Now, no, but it depends, right? So people may do something that's offensive to me, or I may not like it, but it doesn't impact me. That's my fault if I don't like it.
But it sounds like you're saying that, sorry, didn't you say before that everyone can hear everyone else's thoughts?
No. The artificial intelligence monitors everything.
So it knows everything that anyone's seeing.
Correct. Everything's
So it's just a bunch of flesh robots. In the end.
pretty much, yeah.
Because if it doesn't like it, or conform to whatever rules, you shut down.
Well, yeah.
So sorry, let me, no, this is, at UNSW, we're actually having a big debate about AI. All the insurance companies, the regulation, this is the problem. Who is responsible when a car kills someone? And one of the concepts is the AI learns from you. It learns, because, well, again, there is a problem. You can't get away from responsibility. This is the big dilemma of implementing AI in society.
Yeah, no, you're
We already
correct,
have a
right?
solution for that. by the way.
There's actually a comic on Facebook right now where the guy's driving next to a self-driving truck and it says, what do you think about my programming? Right? Yeah, it's funny, right? So yeah, well, you're right. I mean, there's a lot of, that's why I said there's a lot of ethical ideas in this. So,
But I like your comment when you said he's more superior, he's less.
It's not about
How
superiority.
did you make that decision? How do you know this guy contributes more?
That's what I'm talking about.
Because you have a reference.
Everyone's got different value.
That's right.
Yeah.
So what you're saying kind of works if everybody starts at exactly the same ability and chooses not to use it or use it more. That's different.
Yeah.
But if you start there, then you're going to contribute less, and it seems to be those who contribute more get rewarded no more.
they don't get
So why would you bother?
well, you get rewarded because you get to do what you want,
So
right?
does it.
Yeah,
Brendan,
that's right.
Brendan, maybe talk about how.
But they all get the same income.
The what?
The utopia about.
Yeah,
Talk
yeah.
about how the
Everyone gets the same income regardless of whether you work or don't.
Yes, that's
So why
right.
would anyone work?
Because people don't like sitting on their bum. Why are you here? Why do you do this? Right? You do it because you enjoy it, right? You got paid, obviously, but you do it because you enjoy it, right? So a lot of people, they might sit on their bum all day and just do that because it's fun, right? But some
The
people
company
might.
says it's not fun for me, so I'm not allowed to do it.
Okay. Well, no, you're allowed to do it, but if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. That's the whole idea. That's why you get these credits.
But what if you enjoy something that other people don't like?
They can, as long as you're not hurting people. That's the
Yeah, but
point.
like harm is a subjective
Well,
thing, not
So
Yeah,
you make a horror
objective
film,
thing.
what is that mine?
no, because making a horror film, people can choose whether to watch it or not. It's like if you walk up and slash someone's throat, well, that's actually hurting someone. If you do something on the other side of the continent, people can turn the television off or not. So this is the rule set, which, as I said, potential utopia, right? It can sort of work, but there's a lot of flaws to it, right?
No potential.
I don't like it. We can agree to disagree. But the whole point of things basic income is the fact that irrelevant of what you do, everyone gets the same. All right, that's the whole point, right? Yes.
Have you got the part where you describe how it came about, the Australia project, like the background of how it all started?
Yeah. Well,
Keep going.
I don't. I got information
I
about
think
it.
that's a context that we're missing around how it started compared to the dystopian.
Well, the actual thing didn't actually describe too much about the rationale about why it started. But basically, the guy wanted to make an equal society as much as possible, where everyone can contribute and everyone can be free. So he got people to raise a whole bunch of money, right? They used about $1 trillion, right? And everyone bought shares into this. Everyone can only have one share. You can transfer it. You can't have more than one. You can't accumulate. No matter how much you are, you can only have one share, right? And that gives you the rights. So he bought, I think it was about 1.25 million hectares of land in Central Australia and built up this little city. And apparently it started to work, so the government of Australia decided to get on board because it was really cool.
Sorry, I'm a little bit confused in regards to what's the story and what's not.
Yeah.
It's
Is
conceptual.
that real? What you just saw, is that?
No, that's right. This is part of the story. I'm just saying that But I'm getting to the real part.
I'm not sure that one, did that actually happen or not?
No. This is the background.
Sounds legit.
The background of the story is supposed to be semi-plausible, okay, right? But take it with a grain of salt, right? But the idea was, how do we get to a society that's utopia, right? How do you build? How do you start, basically? So, to take an example that sort of almost existed is, and it doesn't use basic income, but it was a high technology city that Paul Keating was talking about back in 1997. No,
That's
sorry.
a good play of yours.
1997. So it's called the multifunction polis, right? At the time, he was talking about also getting Australia to not exporting coal and gas and sheep and all this stuff. He was talking about investing in the sunrise industries, which is basically high technology industries, value adding, and being the actual real clever country, right? So the multifunction polis was supposed to be like a Silicon Valley. It was a planned city like Canberra, but it was actually focusing on a lot of automation in the houses and stuff like that. It was built around universities and centres of excellence and innovation hubs and stuff like that. Anyway, they killed it off. Okay, it eventually did get built near Adelaide somewhere, right? Not quite good, but it's near the universities and stuff. And they got rid of the name because the name was, very unpopular because people didn't like the idea of spending the money on it. And stuff.
What was the name?
It was called the multifunction polis. Yeah. Anyway.
They've accepted university.
Sorry?
They've accepted university.
No, they built it.
University means one truth. It's a Christian origin. It's Universitas is one truth, so people can get into that. Why can't they get over that?
Yeah, there was some controversy about how this was going to be funded, right? There's some Chinese interests and Japanese stuff as well. So, and then Australia was, the Japanese were investing very, very heavily back in those days, and people were worried about the Japanese taking over and buying up all that stuff, and it became very, very politically sensitive, right?
There's no whales out there.
They didn't have funding yet, so
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, do you think it could happen relooked at?
I think it could. Science Party, we have much the same idea, building a new planned city.
And we talk a lot about that sort of stuff. And I'm like, Las Vegas, massive city, middle of the desert. We've got fibre, hardcore, extreme stuff, every infrastructure as far as a perk. It's not much of an effort. I don't know why this does not happen. You could create all manufacturing cities and just go, immigration straight here, like you with doctors and teachers that you go out to regional areas. You want immigration straight out? 3 years out there type of thing. Then you can go wherever you want. Like, what you do with the speeded up immigration where you go to South Australia.
Of course.
So why not? It makes sense. We've got the tech.
We have, and we've had it for years, but the problem is it's a political football, and anyone that tries to do it gets assassinated by politically assassinated by the Liberal government or the Nationals or whatever it is. They reckon that if we get more immigration to Australia...
Here's the right versus the left.
Oh, absolutely, right? So,
Use Shenzhen as an example if you want to see how to
Shenzhen is nuts.
how to do it. You make a special economic zone and
Yep.
it solves itself.
well, I mean, it's...
Clearly, when you have populations in the billions, you have an extreme necessity to do so. Where, like, we can't even get a second airport built in Sydney, and they're building 50 airports a year in China. Ours is in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the necessity.
Well, but we do. They just don't see it.
No,
right?
well, what stops is that China is the needs of the many outweigh the needs of one, we're reversing.
Yeah. And we don't have enough population here as well. It's like the NBN, right? The NBN was cool, right? I'll use the example. I was in South Korea when they built their NBN. They were in the middle of the GFC. They spent $14.8 billion, right? Okay, Korea's kind of small, but they built 14.8 billion, right? And a number of years later, the Liberals were whinging that we're going to spend 29 billion. And Australia's can fit South Korea pretty much inside New South Wales, right? So we've got the whole of Australia, right? And it's got $29 billion at the time. And they think that's too much.
Australia is smaller than Korea. 90% of the country is uninhabited.
I know.
It gives a crap about the actual physical mass scale. They've got far more people.
No, I know, that's the point, right? But you've got to understand, if you're spending 14.8 billion for a small country, Australia's a lot bigger, you still have to run the distance. It's going to cost more than 14.8 billion, right?
It's no effort.
Huh?
The distance is no effort. This is what I build.
Hmm?
I build telcos. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Distance is no effort.
Yeah.
Digging is the most expensive part, isn't it?
No, I think no one has a long-term view,
Why?
right? Because they all want to retire and have a happy life.
Well, because they believe there's no payoff, right? So satellites.
I know what happened with the whole
Yeah,
idea.
yeah,
It's
okay.
The government's
So,
actually,
so
the
are you
government's
gonna,
intent
are
is
you gonna
actually
go into reality because that's
good.
yeah, it's good.
Yes, that's,
So anyway, that's a, sorry.
Yeah.
Continue. Yeah, that's right.
Alright. Okay, so just basically once you get the sophisticated brain interfaces and things like that, you end up with these two classes of people inside the Predix Trail, which is basically the bytes and the P's are called. So once you get this full dive system, pretty much sorted out in mind territory, you can live entirely in the virtual world, right? You don't need to come to the physical world. So you become brains and bats. If you want to discard your body, you can. And apparently you can live longer by putting your brain in a rack, right? And the ordinary people basically spend the majority of time in the real world, but they also talk to each other, watch TV, etc., all through their magic brain-computer interface. So that's more of an accessory, where some people will just choose to discard the physical world and go into the virtual world.
built by no one.
Huh?
Built by no one.
No, built. So, okay, yeah, well, maybe what Peter was talking about, when this system was, or in the story when the system was built, before the actual investment was to build basically massive, like Elon Musk was building these mega factories. They were building robotic factories and automation, maybe nanotechnology, 3D printers, etc. Right? So basically the whole idea of building the automation and the workflow. So,
No one will do it without commercial power.
I don't know.
Our
It
government-
could be
our
the
government
future
is
retirement
stupid
village.
shit, huh?
$50 a week, future retirement village. Just go into VR.
So what's the movie where everyone was made small?
No, it's cheaper for the government.
Downsizing. Has anyone ever seen Downsizing? That's hilarious. I looked at it and went,
yeah. Oh, I think. Well, that's going to be the argument, right? What do you want to do? I mean, what does life mean to you? Do you want to get huge amounts of money, but what's that do for you, right? For me personally, I don't care how much money I have, as long as I can achieve something that money gives me.
give me a bottle of rum.
Huh? No, but I still got physical constraints here, right?
Oh, okay.
No, but it's like, how much money do you need to be happy? Right? That's the most important question. So, and that's just very subjective, but how much money do you really need to be happy? And the answer is, you need all your needs to be met first. So if you have to pay a mortgage and you have to send your kids to school and you have to drive to work, obviously you're going to have expenses. So you need that much money. They're your needs, right?
You've already confused wants and needs there.
Yeah, I know, but it's very
How big is your mortgage?
yeah, but it's very important, right? Because what do you need once you've got all that stuff? So if a basic income comes and you've got a house and you've got a car and all your electronic gizmos are built into your brain-computer interface, what else do you need to make yourself happy?
Upgrades.
Yeah, exactly, right? But what if they free by using these resource credits? What
the
if-
whole planet,
Yeah.
who's gonna let me take it?
Doesn't make any sense.
No, it's like it's a want need, as he said. It's a want need confusion.
Because if you're buying things with credits, there's a guy over there with like Apple with the trillion credits.
No, but resource credits are owned by everybody. Remember, no ownership? The Australia project, which is the whole of Australia, owns all the
There's
resources.
no point in anyone having it.
Well, yeah, there is.
So, no, that's because your satisfaction is to be richer than the other guy. If that's the case,
Then you're going to be very unhappy.
Yeah.
if your purpose is to make a better place, get cure for cancer and stuff like that, then you're busy.
But cure for cancer already is there.
Well, it's okay.
2 decades ago it was there.
AI's already figured it.
As a cancer
But-
researcher, no,
No.
don't
But if
insult
you're a
the
researcher,
people that do
then
that work.
of course it's no, because
I'm
you
sorry.
need something to research about.
Are you kidding me?
I'm just watching here going,
That is a
that person drive
ridiculous
this
argument.
Caroline.
Yeah, but why do you earn money though?
Cancer is solved
But I
by
think-
something
Yeah.
else.
I think it's more than that. I think we should differentiate money from the price system. I don't know if people have watched that short clip about iPencil. Like who decides how much timber to cut, how much lead to mine or whatever graphite? It's a price system. Because once you don't have a price system, you have a committee doing decisions. And no one's wise enough to know how many of these things to produce. That's why you have to rely on the price system.
But
So we should have a good point.
no, no,
Bitcoin.
yeah.
Why are the people that are always in favour of this the people who don't have any money?
No, but that's I think that's the question.
But why are people who have money
You know,
always against giving some of their money to someone else who doesn't
No,
have
no,
it?
let's not go down that path. This
Right?
tax system's a pile of shit.
But I guess what you're saying, the system you're talking about, that's the thing that is hard to stop. I mean, I don't know whether you see. You have to work and money so that you can look after your retirement, right?
Yeah.
But that's going to take your lifetime.
Yeah.
So everybody, instead of trying to figure out a better place to live in the future, we're just too busy earning enough money, trying to get this startup. No one thinks about, hey,
Well, let's just say in this system, right, you've solved that problem, okay? Let's just say you have this system already in. The problem is how to get to this system, right? That's probably what people are thinking about. But let's just say you magically created this system, okay? What do you need? If all your basic needs are met, and you've got the resource credits to actually make sure that no one's hogging all the resources and everyone has access to the resources, what else do you need?
It's like saying if I had magically had this universe, I wouldn't need anyone else. Like, you can say you magically.
No, but you don't need money anymore because you've got access to the
You don't need
resources.
to date anymore.
But
It's like,
you want-
you can imagine.
But how do you resolve conflicts?
You want
It's
free
not
will.
element of surprise.
The problem is, I like the concept. It's like most concepts, like Marxism. Like, there's always the concepts. The problem is the concepts never work in reality.
No, I agree. That's why I said the potential of the
They
utopia.
never work in reality. Like you just
Yeah.
said here, surrender entire transhumans. There's no human left. It's bioflesh
Yeah.
because we can't do anything.
Well, you can.
No. No, yeah, it's crazy with you.
You've lost free will.
You've lost the entire free will.
You've lost most free will. Yes. That's right.
So
Hence why I said potential utopia.
the lefties are just turning everything against themselves at the moment. They're getting confused.
Well, this is more like a story in terms of what's in the story and how it maintains a thing. And then, well, the question is, the whole point that Marshall Brain wants to let people know is, what is the possible future of automation, right? We always talk about as part of transhumanism, accelerating technology and stuff like that. What's your possible thing? We always think that the robot's going to kill us all, right? It's going to be some sort of cyberpunk dystopian future, right? Or we're all going to be, like Star Trek universe. Well, what about on Earth? In current tech, near future, what's the world going to look like? Is it going to be a nice place to live or not? Well, no, but in this place, it's sort of nice, but as I said, that's why I was making sure that the utopia that he outlines, it only seems to work if you have this magical brain-computer interface that controls you from murdering other people and hogging all the resources.
The analogy that you gave Star Trek then is actually probably the best. One is like that planet runs like that.
Yeah.
That one runs like that. That one like that. Then you got the Ferengi, you're going to go and take your shit. And you got the Borg that comes along and can also take your shit. And like, the problem is it's the nature of life is to dominate and survive and win.
You're right.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
You know,
But if we can remove
you can't.
that,
Because that's life.
No,
because life's pure number one purpose is to keep going.
But
But I was going to say, I think if people are becoming more spiritual, following on from Anuraj's presentation, it is about becoming more collaborative and realising that there's enough abundance for all and being more compassionate and more kind. And I think technology is a fantastic tool for that, but ultimately, I think we need to have free will and to be able to have the skills to manage adversity and those kinds of things. And it's tapping into what we already have within us. So that's true spirituality. And I think we have to be very careful with machines that we don't take that ability away from people, because it's so important that people are empowered. And when you're empowered, you naturally wouldn't dream of hurting another person and feel really connected to another person. And that's what I think education is the way forward, and teaching people those skills that from their heart they would not even think of hurting another person.
That's assuming that everyone's got the same philosophy of life.
Sorry?
Absolutely right.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's the way that we're taking humanity forward.
I think one thing you missed there is that there is a dark side of everything. I've actually talked to Anuraj and we are going to debate about
Yeah,
this.
but
Like,
it's embracing that as well.
well, hang on, because you don't know what else I do. And what I do is like weaponize things, technology and everything. So the question is, and the debate that I want to have with Anuraj is, can you weaponize spirituality?
Yes.
Because spirituality by itself isn't saying it's good
It's called a
or
cult.
bad,
No.
but you can. I'm not talking about the misuse or a stupid brand name. I'm talking actually weaponizing the power of that it brings to people and what it can do. And there's possibly, we will figure out a way to screw up and use and use and abuse everything that we come up with.
But I think one of the things about the spirituality stuff with all these electronic devices and stuff is what may have taken these spiritual people years to learn. You accelerate that spirituality, enlightenment much quicker because basically using technology to tap into it quicker. Yeah. I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing, but I think
Being enlightened isn't even that hard. It's just that a lot of people don't have the skills to know how to get there. Till to date, a lot of people haven't even known how to get the skills, but due to technology and education, people can easily access those skills now. So I think it is a very exciting time.
Sorry?
Not everyone in, not everyone in India is enlightened, and there's some really bad people.
Yep, sure.
And so, and I think what I'm getting is, those people that don't, they know that that's where it's path. They could have gone out there like, no one. And that's sort of similar to Steve saying, there's those people that's, no one just can do it.
No, of course.
And that always do it.
Not everyone, I mean, whatever your philosophy is the problem. Like you've seen in the news the last couple of days, there's the girl who's, I think, in Thailand, she's gone, I reject Islam, and things like there will always be people who have different views, and you might say that we've got knowledge, but it's only people that want to do that. Christians believe a certain thing, and they're like, oh, you can't get taken through Jesus and everything. But a someone that grows up in a rainforest, or a Jewish kid that grows up their entire life, or a Muslim kid, that's their reality. And you can't tell someone that someone else's reality is wrong. And what you believe is spirituality is not for her. And not for him. Like I remember that 2 or 3 years ago I came to a transhumanism event and everyone was debating AI. And like we can control AI, we can teach it exactly what we want, we do everything like that, and it will be the perfect AI and it won't want to kill us. I'm like, yeah, but North Korea's not going to do that. They're going to show it horror movies and it's going to beat the shit out of your AI.
There is also one big danger of digitalized memories being implanted in your brain. So all your views and thoughts and everything has changed. So it's completely transformed because we are a bunch of memories. And if we can replace it through technology, that's what we become. The reminiscence of that new digital memory. And there's no way to know which is the real one and which is not the real one. And that's where the VR is actually creating real memories. When you're actually playing the game and killing people, it creates real memories.
Actually, something that combines what we were talking about, this and what we're doing. Given that all the major prophets, whether Muhammad, Jesus, or a bunch of others, all they're really doing is they're reframing ideas that we particularly find something affinity with, and certain groups of people. What about when the machine can do that? When do we have our first prophet AI who goes, I've read all your books, and puts it all together, and by the way, that means this, and we all just go,